No, I just said you can talk.
Oh, okay. You said don't be using any bad words.
Well, we still have
I can't talk then.
they still have chain gangs back then, you know what I'm saying? Where if you were in jail, well, you had to go out and pick all the trash up off the highway and had them old sickles you had to swing to cut the grass.
They can't do that anymore, make you work.
Oh no,
Of
that's
course
They
not.
gotta give you color TV and
computers.
cooling in the summer and heat in winter.
Hey, you haven't seen it. When you, it is, it's unbelievable. Because I know, well, here's
Hi,
the
Frank.
deal. It's just,
You're getting to be the first one here now. Good to see everybody with us today. We appreciate you being with us at Facebook Live, and those will be watching later on, and also on YouTube. We always enjoy seeing who's with us. Hi, Kay. Hope you're having a good morning. So we're going to continue our studying. Probably the last couple of months, I've been titling this the greatest chapter in all the Bible, and that's chapter 8 of Romans. And we're going through, I believe it's 34 powerful pillars of truth. And these truths, I think if we really embrace them, I think they will really help our life to the better, you know, and that's what we're after. We want to live this life that Jesus talked about, which is an abundant life, not necessary for physical things, but spiritually. You know, me wanting to be better and do better and learn more is to help other people and to help my world, help my family, and anybody that's in contact with me, because the world needs help. And they need to be taught truth. So I'm going to be teaching today from Romans 8:19, and I'll read that real quick, and then we'll continue on through this. But Romans 8:19 says, as the reality of the original formation of people intensifies in our awareness, we can come to clearly see what Father has conferred upon us to live as the sons and daughters of Father that we presently are. And in the King James Version, if you'll remember, it talks about the whole, the creation is groaning for the manifestation of the sons of God. And so as I read several verses, I decided I wanted to talk about creation today. And I looked it up in the Aramaic English, and we find where it says, for the whole creation is hoping and waiting for the development of the sons of Elohim. And so to me, development would really explain what's going on, because we already are sons of God, right? We're not looking for sons of God to show up. Sons and daughters of God are already here. So I looked up a few synonyms for that, for development, and it would be growth, it's progress, it's advancement, and it's increase. And it's very simple to see that's what creation needs, is we need to grow into who we are. We need to grow into the knowledge of our Father and what Father has made us to be and who we are, and increase. And what needs to increase? Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And we have all that, but we need to be aware of that. And when you're studying, I always talk about how when you're reading the Bible, you need to see what awareness is from. And because some of it's a carnal awareness, some of it's a spiritual awareness. So when we read the Bible, we need to put on our lens of love, and then we need to just search the Bible to see what awareness it is and how it fits what we need it to fit and what we need to understand. So it would be safe to say then that all creation is groaning for the growth, the progress, the advancement, and the increase in the awareness of spiritual knowledge and understanding in mankind. Mankind needs to be spiritually active, right?
Yes.
And I look back over my life, and most of my life I probably wasn't spiritually active. You know, I went to church and I sang songs and I prayed in my prayer language, and I thought that was really been spiritually active. And Father did meet us where we were at. I never make fun of those times in our life. I'm thankful for those times because they brought me to where I'm at today. And so pillar of truth number 15 is the whole creation knows who we are. And they wait for us to come to the perfect realization that we are sons and daughters of Father now and for eternity. And when I say I'm even talking about the animals. I'm talking about all the universe, because we're supposed to have dominion over everything. So when I think about creation, I was sitting there yesterday thinking about creation, I think of bringing into existence of the universe. And all the universe contains, including mankind, and all that dwells and all that grows upon our planet and possibly other planets too, because Father did create all things. And people talk about, do you think there's life on other planets? Well, it'd be very foolish to say, absolutely not. I mean, that would be very foolish because we don't know. We really don't know. And science today is beginning to say that there are extraterrestrials, or there are things that they don't understand. And so I don't say no whatsoever. If they are, they were created by Father. And so Father thought all things into existence. And I like that when I began to learn that he thought things into existence. And the truth is, we can thought things into existence, can't we? We think about stuff too much sometimes, and it really becomes a reality. It can ruin relationships very quickly. It causes divorces. It causes friendship breakups and all that. And that's why Paul talked about think on these things, and we've dealt with that already. So Father thought all things in existence, so there cannot be a thought without a mind to think the thoughts, right? And there cannot be a plan without a planner. There cannot be a creation without a creator. And there are a lot of people think that it's just all of it exploded and all happened and it's all there without any source of that whatsoever. And I know there is a creator, because I have ice cream without a creator liking ice cream, correct? I was thinking about that this morning, so I had to sneak that in a little bit. But I was reading something the other day, and somebody was saying, and I'm going to read this later, but when Jesus said, I have meat that you know not of, he said that's proof that if we'd realize who we are, we don't have to eat at all. And I thought, well, I'm glad you believe that, but I happen to know Father said he gave it all to us to eat. So in the sacred scripture, there are 6 references to creation. I figured there would be a lot more to that. But there are 6 references to the actual word creation. There 2 of them are in the book of Mark, 2 in the book of Romans, 1 in 2 Peter, and the last one is in Revelation. And every mention of creation was translated from the Greek ktis, K-T-I-S-I-S, and it means the original foundation or the act, the original foundation of the act. And then it comes from the Greek word kitzo, K-T-I-Z-O, and it means through the idea of proprietorship of the manufacturer. So Father owns us. Father owns the creation, right? And Father owns it. In other words, Father is the one that created, and then the Father gave it to us for us to have dominionship over, or literally mastership, because that's one of the meanings for dominion, is master. So all there is out there, Father did it for us. It would be like if John Matlock would say they're going to do someday, and I told Angela we're ready to move in next year, but they're going to build on 40 acres of beautiful land by a lake and a pond, and they want to build a house on the back for us to move into that. Well, if they do that, they did it, but it's ours. It's for us.
Right.
So what? Father doesn't need all this, right? I mean, it's all done for his creation. And so we need to understand, and of course there's another Greek word to it also, that it means to acquire or to own again. So there's proof there that Father owns it. Father's the creator of all of it. It didn't just explode somewhere. So all creation is caused by Father's breath, I would say. Breathing out the idea of cremation. Father formed man, out of the dust of the earth, right? In the Hebrew, I looked it up in the Hebrew, and I've got a Greek-English dictionary, but in the Hebrew it says, Father blew into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. And so that's why sometimes when you read writings, you say being. We have our being, and him and we move, and we have our being. So that's where that came from. And then in the Greek it says, and Father formed dust from the ground into a man, and blew into his face a breath of life, and the man became a living soul. So both of those are very accurate. So I found it interesting. I Googled creation. I like Google, and I also like the artificial intelligence playground where I can go to and I can put a paragraph in there and I'll say, correct my grammar. And so if you hear me sounding really intelligent today, you'll know I've been using a little bit of AI. But it just shows me where I use way too many words sometimes. But it's really, really cool. But Google said of creation, and I was shocked, they're bringing into existence of the universe, especially when regarded as an act of God. And it says the Big Bang was the moment of creation and therefore the work of God. Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
I'm shocked that the owners of Google allow that. But and I've been seeing a lot of things lately that on the internet that I look at and I think, wow, these things, they don't want to admit, but they are. So if you want to call it a Big Bang, I'd say it was a Big Bang. I mean, when Father breathed into existence, all the planets, everything, it would be massively awesome. So creation supposes a creator then, right? The creator is our Father. And any halfway intelligent person has to know there has to be a divine source of all things. Many people say they're atheists. I can understand that because the way Father's been taught or God's been taught to them. And it just doesn't make sense. And we should have woke up a long time ago and said, this doesn't make sense. That there's a God out there that if I don't give 10% of my money that I need to pay my bills and I need to buy my children, that he's going to punish me or he's going to kill me or take my child from me. I mean, how brainwashed were we? But there has to be a source, and that source is a loving Father.
Yes.
And the creator, the source, the divine mind, whatever, Father creates with a creative, spiritual, law-giving, revealing activity. Remember what I said, that the Logos, Father spoke the Logos, if you would. And all creation we see is Father's holy breath slowed down to visibility. Next week, I'm going to offer a $20 bill to anyone that can memorize that statement I made a minute ago. Remember how I tried to get everybody to memorize 6 steps to the throne? It was terrible. Crucified, died, buried, quickened, raised, and seated. And week after week after week, nobody could stand up and say it. Finally, Melanie did.
Except for me, and then he wouldn't give me the
Yeah, Donna could, but she lives with me.
You don't count.
no.
So all creation we see is Father's holy breath again slowed down to visibility. And the character of Father's creation is good and very good. If you read in Genesis, what did Father say? And he did this, and he did this, and it is good. It is good. And I looked at the word good many years ago, and it actually says to be. It's one word, TOBE. And so I don't know if it's implied that way, but I think Father created man to be. He created the earth to be. He created the animals and the trees to be. And when Father says to be, you will always be.
Right.
That's just me. I need to patent that.
That's good.
So there's no other creator but Father. And yes, we create, but we only create Father's conception. We don't create anything apart from Father. And I say this all the time, we don't really invent things, we discover, because it's always been there.
Right.
Everything that we have today the knowledge of it has already been there. The cell phones we have today that are just unbelievable. We have no idea how powerful those cell phones are. The ability to make those was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. The knowledge was there. But people have to I'm going to use a word that some people don't like, but we have to evolve in our understanding and evolve in our ability to do things. But Father made it all.
Yes.
And Father saw it all. So Father's creation was in the realm of ideas and the ideal, if you would, and the divine mind. So the universe and man, we are perfect. Everything is perfect.
Yes.
And that's why I like to go around sometimes and tell people, raise your head up.
Yes.
Why are you walking around with your head down all the time? My sister, Cheryl, didn't like her teeth, and she always covered her teeth all the time. And I would grab her hand and say, Cheryl, stop that. You're beautiful. But it's somebody probably said something to her, some kid did, somebody said something to her that shamed her and affected her whole life. And I'm telling you, we've sat in places that were supposed to be edifying us, and they shamed us. Right? And it was like if you didn't feel guilty or want to crawl under the pew, you didn't have a good church service today. So, the universe and man are perfect, and the expression and manifestation of perfect or ideal creation was left to man. We are to express that ourselves. And so we can go into the earth and we can have a poor mentality. We can be beaten up mentally. We can beat ourselves mentally, and we don't look very well. And we see people today, that looked dark. I mean, we had a family come to our church once, and the two children, they looked dark. Even it affected their color of their skin, and it was terrible. And you could tell that they lived in a very non-exhorting life, or home or whatever. So it affects mankind. But when we express it, people want to be with us. When we express it, they see the light of our glory, and that's what people need. And so it has not been true to what Father wanted for most of mankind, because they don't know who they are. They feel like they're just sinners saved by grace. They've been beat down and hunkered down, and they look down all the time. And, you know, I tell people all the time, I've told Carl this and some of the other men, but you can look 15 years younger or more by walking straight up with your head up. You know that? It's the truth. Your posture and the way you hold your head up, because you look out in society and you'll see people walking, and people are sick, people that have problems, they're hunkered down, and you look old.
Yeah.
And you radiate that. So Larry starts standing up straight. Larry does stand up straight, and Carl does too. But I'm just using that as a point. And so what happens, this not living this way, not just talking about standing up straight, but not allowing this flow to and be the essence of it, and whatever everything Father is, that's what causes bad things to take place. In the face of the truth of Father that made us perfect and made us good, because we don't know who we are, and I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about mankind in generally. They don't know who they are, and they succumb to what's been said about them, what they think about themselves, and then that allows bad things to happen, including sickness and disease and everything else. You know, I've had people tell me that I possibly allowed this to happen to me. Well, I don't think I allowed my heart, but there can be some things that we believed all of our life. Like, you know, when you get 60, you don't have many years left, and after all, it's normal that when you're in the 60s and 70s, you're going to get sick. I've had doctors tell me, well, that's normal for you. You're 70 years old or whatever. And then we agree with that. But Father made all things good. Father made all things beautiful. Father made everything life-giving, if you would. So there's a word called antithesis. You've heard me say that before. Antithesis, A-N-T-I-T-H-E-S-I-S. A-N-T-I-T-H-E-S-I-S. If you want to sound smart, memorize that word. Antithesis is the direct opposite of something or someone. The direct opposite. So Father created all things good, in fact, very good, and Father gave that power and that dominion to mankind, and they turned it around to the direct opposite. That's why, Larry, when you see in the Bible where it says God created good and evil, well, they wrote that wrong. Father created good, and man turned it into, and actually, again, there's no such word as evil in the Bible. It was put in there, it's bad. Man's the one that turns things bad. So when you say, Father, why are you doing this to me? Well, grow up. You're doing it to yourself. Or the collectiveness of mankind's doing it. You know, just like, I don't know why they did it, but somebody created a virus called COVID. And they made it where it could progress more and more and more. I don't know why they'd want to study that or whatever. So it's not my fault that I got COVID, right? So I'm not saying everything you do is your fault. But there are things that we do that we take, and then it turns into not good at all.
It didn't make itself.
Huh?
COVID did not.
No, it did not. It did not. So Father gave mankind power and gave mankind dominion to tend all creation, and they brought forth the opposite of good. And just like today, there are scientists, there are pharmaceutical companies, there are all kinds of companies that have great knowledge to help mankind, but because of the problem with greed for more and more and more and more money, they don't help us, they just treat us. Now, I'm not against the medical society. Doctors, nurses, all the people that work there, they want a cure. I believe that with all my heart. But it's the source of their products that causes that. And so they're taking knowledge that Father has given them, because we can all tap into our divine knowledge, and yet they're turning it to bad because of the greed. So the first chapter of Genesis describes this creative. If you want to write it down, that's what I'd like for you guys to memorize, and pray that I can too. The first chapter of Genesis describes the creative, spiritual, law-giving, and revealing activity. That's what logos, the spiritual meaning of it. Okay, the creative, spiritual, law-giving, and revealing activity in the action of the universal divine mind and the realm of ideas. And so it does not pertain to the manifest world. Now I'm going to explain why. This truth is demonstrated in the second chapter of Genesis, which states there was no man to till the soil. Have you ever noticed that? It gives the first chapter, it gives all the creation, and then chapter 2 reviews it, if you would. And so it says there was no man to till the soil. Conclusively, this proves that the first creation described is the realm of ideas. That makes sense to you? So Father's idea, this is what Father was in his idea, and then to begin to breathe it into being, but there was yet no man to till the soil. And I'm going to say this, there is a evolving in everything that Father did. That matters not what I believe, but I think things begin to come into existence and come into existence and come into existence, just like today. The cell phone has always been, right? Everything that we have has always been, but it evolved. Man evolved in their understanding, their knowledge, and those things begin to evolve. Did not our cell phones evolve from a little rinky-dink phone that we had to dial and turn, and the very first phone that came out? And then our cell phones came, and there was a great big box with a giant battery in the back of the car. The pagers, and then it just began to evolve and evolve. Everything evolves. So evolution is not a bad word. It's really not. So, and where I get this from, there's a man named Pharaoh Fenton, and the account of creation rendered by him gives an enlightening translation from Hebrews. It says, by periods, from Hebrew, by periods God created that which produced the suns, and then which produced the earth. So he said it was done in periods. And, it's pretty interesting to me. So a spiritually untrained person cannot really create disharmony because it's not a power. So it results from a lack of understanding and false narrow views of God and the universe. But only that which Father creates is fundamental. Only that which God creates is enduring. Only that which God creates is abiding, and it's permanent. So if you're spiritually untrained, or if you're more carnally mindful or whatever you create is not necessarily permanent, because the truth will swallow all that up. The truth will make you free from that. If it was permanent, then you could not be made free.
That's good.
Isn't that good?
That's good.
I love that. So the I always have a hard time saying that word. Inharmonious in the world are eliminated by eliminating them from man's conscious awareness. The non-harmonious, correct. I need to fix that. Because if we can change our awareness, then we can change the situation.
Yes.
Not quit things or whatever, but change our awareness. If there's something that makes you feel good, that's not good for your body, and you enjoy it, but you know it's not good for your body, then you have to change your awareness and say, this peace that I'm getting out of this is a false peace, and I'm giving it a power. And I always use the example of ice cream. That's all I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to talk about all your sins. I know every one of them, and I'm not going to talk to you about it. No, but ice cream gives me great pleasure. I enjoy it.
It's not necessarily good for your body.
Donna hasn't had any in a long time, and she hasn't been doing sugar, and she just wanted a dip of ice cream. I said, that's okay. And so we went to get it, and I got her sugar-free, which is absolutely horrible. But I got myself chocolate almond and cherry.
Well, I didn't like he got me some kind of chocolate.
Well, I did it on purpose.
It was not good.
But I'm telling you, I liked that ice cream. I hadn't had it in a long time, and it tasted so good. And I'm not going to say it was bad for me, but it's bad for me if I keep doing it. And I keep doing it, and I'm getting something out of it
Yeah.
that I shouldn't be.
It's moderation.
You what?
All things in moderation.
All things in moderation, that's right. So, back to what I'm talking about. We can eliminate what a lot of stuff that's going on in the world if we could just change people's awareness. And it's not my job to go change everybody's awareness. All I can do is talk to my world. But somehow or another, I wish this would get to the world where there's people in charge of the political system and the financial system and the medical system, where people can wake up. And how do you do that? Well, it's done by understanding that Father's creation is all that there is, and knowing it to be good, and knowing that you are good. There is no opposite to that. If it's bad, it's because man took it and made it bad, but it's all good. Every person on planet Earth is good. They just don't know they're good. I guarantee you can walk in most churches, charismatic churches, Baptist churches, different churches, Church of Christ, different denominations, and walk up and ask a person if they were good or if they were holy, and they would say no.
Because they consider that blasphemous.
Right, they do.
Blasphemy.
Just like the Jews said, he declares himself to be a son of God. And I've asked people if they knew they were a daughter or son of God, and they said, no, I'm not. I'm a sinner. So in this way, the divine ideas are established in the divine mind, and by the creative, spiritual, law-giving, revealing activity, they are expressed. And see, I want the Logos to be expressed, right? The Logos was made flesh, not just in Jesus, but in all mankind, a being here. And so it brings into manifestation this perfection that ever exists in the perfect. We are perfect. We always exist perfect. No matter what you're expressing, your true self is perfect.
Right.
And that's not just for you, Lily. It's Larry is too.
That's right. Yes,
Okay.
it is.
Larry paid me to say that.
I bet he did.
So the spiritual law-giving and revealing activity may be described in 3 steps: divine mind, idea, and manifestation. Divine mind, idea, and manifestation. First, there must be a divine mind, right? There has to be, or none of this would exist whatsoever. Second, everything exists first as an idea in our divine mind. So everything that man is producing today, first it was in the divine mind, and it became an idea, and then entered into man's thought. Where does God speak to us? In our thoughts. Who does God sound like? Us. The only reason I'm using God is because we're talking a lot about God here. And some people can't take Father. I don't know why, but Jesus said Father, so I like to say Father. So the second is first as an idea in our divine mind. Third, the inherent power and creative intelligence in the idea causes the creative, spiritual, law-giving, revealing activity to express. And when it is expressed, we then have manifestation. Correct?
Good. That's good.
Does that make sense to you, Carl? Can you get up and say all that?
It's okay.
It's in his mind.
But that's what we want, is the expression of it.
We have it in the divine.
I want to express my perfectness.
Yes.
And I believe there's some things, and I'm doing some more studies of some things that we can begin to manifest on. How Jesus really raised his energy level in his body and raised the energy of the people he was speaking to. And he didn't look at the problem. I was reading it to Donna yesterday, and I can't read it all just the way I saw it. But this man with a withered arm, Jesus did not look at that withered arm. All Jesus saw was a perfect arm. And he raised that man up to that level, and then he said, reach your hand forth, and he did. And it was perfect, because it already was perfect.
Yes.
But we go by what we see with these physical eyes, but with our single eye, we see people perfect. And that's why you can see people in the world perfect, no matter who they are. If they did something bad, and I think it was Ann was mentioning this the other day. We told somebody that even Hitler's with the Lord today, and her friend couldn't take it. Wasn't it you told me that?
No.
Oh,
That's good.
but somebody did. But they couldn't take it because they're seeing with their carnal thought, and they're seeing with their physical eyes, and they're seeing what he did, and he's not worthy. And that's such a damnable doctrine that we were taught. It's like my pastor taught me that homosexuals could never be forgiven ever, because he read that verse in Romans where it said, therefore God gave them up, and it didn't. It said, therefore they gave God up. And we've all given God up for something. So it's really heartbreaking. So why is this important? Well, because I know it's within me.
Yes.
That's why it's important. I remember telling one of my loved ones once that, decided they didn't believe God, there was a God or anything. And how do you know there's a God? And I said, because I know Father's in me. I can feel it. It's not just a physical feeling, but it's an experience inside of me. And I've had too many experiences with Father that were real. And so I know it's within me, and I want to let it be in every part of me. Right?
Yes.
And it's up to us to do that, to let it be. I cleared out my office. It's not that I'm never going to paint anymore, but the greatest thing that's helping me is studying, and studying for truth, and studying for you guys. And so I've cleaned it out, and I'm going to pour the rest of my life into study. I want to get everything I can in books and get things out there, but I want to understand this so well that I can help you understand it so well, and then you can help other people. It's the greatest multi-level marketing program there ever was. And we're not going to go out there and try to save people. We're going to save them from their false identity.
Yes.
The proper word is rescue people. So it is the same creative spiritual law-giving, revealing activity that the Father released at creation of all things, and that is alive inside of us, and it was in Jesus. It was it not? The Logos was alive in Jesus, and that's what caused him to be able to do what he did. And he even resurrected himself from that grave that they put him in. It wasn't time for him to leave at all. And that same power is in every one of us. Right? Every one of us has a creative, spiritual, law-giving, revealing activity in us, and it must be active, but we must allow it to be active. And sometimes we let our brains just go on all kinds of junk. And sometimes we're in the presence of somebody that needs help, and we're so busy worrying about our life. Or, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to my children? What's going to happen if the money turns into digital dollars? Or all the stuff that they're trying to scare us with. They're just trying to scare you, family.
We can be our own worst enemy.
We can. And when somebody gets you to be afraid of them, then they can control you. And these systems of the world do that. And we must not let that happen. And another point I want to make is we are not new creation beings. I remember, behold, all things become new, and I've explained that before. But the penal substitutionary doctrine taught us that we are new creation beings because we got saved. But the fact is we are eternally new creation that does not perish. Does not perish. Well, wait a minute, Pastor. Everybody that I know of has been buried in a grave. They're still here. They're still with us. I believe they have a glorified body, and I believe they're all around us. And I believe if need be, they can step into the realm of visibility to help people. And I don't know what else they're doing. But I know one thing, they're saying, Lord, how long? When are these people going to wake up? I believe that. So man's part in the creative process is to express the divine ideal. So every day we need to start thinking about that. That's something to meditate on. My part in what Father wants for us is to create is to express the divine ideal that Father wanted me from the beginning. We raised children. You guys, I know you adopted a boy and a girl, and you had an ideal for them. I'm sure Carl thought, my son's going to grow up, and I don't want to cause you to feel sad, but Carl, he's going to grow up. And I was thinking about that. I told Donna the other day when we're out there, or Larry, and that Carl, had a son, and I know his desire was him to want to work on the farm and to help him with all that. And then something happened, and he passed away. But he never got to fulfill the express image that Father wanted for him. And many of us are alive today, and we waste that, and we waste that, and we waste that, and we never get to fulfill that. But can you imagine what it would be if we would just be everything Father created us to be? What a blessing would be in the earth today. We would go forth like Jesus and not use this power for ourselves, but use this power to bless mankind. And that's why I say the word cherubim means people of blessings. I've found that in Scripture once. I've had a hard time finding where I found it. I have to tell you, I forgot more than I know right now. I've been studying a long time, and I'm not bragging, but there's just a lot of stuff that it comes to my memory when I need it. But we are people of blessing, and if we would allow that expression every day when I get up, Father, by faith, I'm going to express you. I know I'm going to be going off into the world. I'm going to go to Walmart. I'm going to get gas or whatever. And Father, I am sensitive to that tap on my back, if you would. And I say, Father, here I am, send me.
Yes.
And guess what? The more you express it, the better you get at it. It's like somebody going to act. Have you ever been in a play before? First time it wasn't real easy, right? I can tell you the first time I preached, I did not express preaching very well. I feel sorry for those people. But the more you do it, the more you express it. And you find out, well, this is what I was made to be. And it could be something different. It could be just with children or whatever. But man's part that's important for us is that we are the offspring of our Father, and he expresses nothing but perfection. Right? So all this stuff that we look out in the world and see as bad, that's not Father's true expression. Father, when a baby was born, that baby came forth perfect in every way. Now, yes, I know there's deformities, there's things that happen, but that's not God. It's the collectiveness of mankind that's passed down in the DNA and causes problems like that. But at the back of the visible universe are the original creative ideas, and those that they're brought forth in earthly things, if you would. And in the creative process, divine mind first envisions itself, right? It's like me when I paint. Of course, in my kind of paintings, I don't know what it's going to come out like, but I kind of envision it. I have different ways of painting, so it comes out in that kind of pattern. So in my mind, I envision what I want it to be. And once I learned how to do it, then I came up with some of my own techniques, and I envisioned how it was going to be, and it worked. Now, if one of you come along and decide that needs something else on it, just one drop of paint will ruin my painting, right? We had a friend that come put her hand on it thinking it was wet. That was so funny. I mean, dry. And if it would have stayed the way it was, my painting would have been ruined. But fortunately, it was wet and it flowed back together. But I thought it was funny. But creation does not need your thumbprint on it, right? Doesn't need your adjustments or whatever. Everything is already perfect. All we need to do is listen to Father, express what Father says to us. So the order of creation is from the formless to the formed, from the invisible to the visible. So Father created all things visible and also those things that are invisible right now. We have not yet seen the fullness of God's glory. And yet Scripture says God's glory is, the whole earth is filled with Father's glory. I'm going to talk about that in a minute here. So he who is eternal, that's who exists inside of us. And we are eternal too. So the creation is carried forward through the creative, spiritual, law-giving, and revealing activity of our divine mind. So would you rather me say that or through the Word? Or through the Logos? But I think that explains it better. So the order of creation is from the formless, and then it's formed. And the idea continually pours itself into its creation, lifting it higher and higher and higher. So what Father says is continuing to be generation after generation after generation, as though Father just did it right then, because with Father there is no time. So Father's creative activity is always working all the time from generation to generation. Every time a baby is born, that takes place. Every time a cow is born, that takes place. I'm trying to get his attention here. I got it. I'm playing with you. So apart from the divine mind, then nothing can be done. Correct? So man, in their forming and bringing things into manifestation, uses this same power. So as we awaken higher to our spiritual truth, then we evolve more and more and more in our awareness and our way of life. And Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And Kay showed us, Kay Fairchild, that the word name, which I always said nature, also includes way. So there is a way of life. And the way of life is the way Father envisioned, the way we live and move and have our being. So, above all other living creation we know of, at mankind's inception, they are in spiritual illumination. When that baby, when that sperm hits that egg, there is a light of explosion. If you haven't seen it, you should YouTube it. It's awesome. There's an explosion of light, and I believe, and I don't even say I believe, it is the very Spirit of God, the very breath of God going into that baby, and their spiritual illumination takes place, and that child has a divine mind. And what we do with it, well, as parents, can cause a bad life or cause them to continue to be good, nurturing them in spiritual things. And that's what Mary did. Mary nurtured Jesus, and she knew who she was, and she let that power function through her, and she taught him truth that she learned from the scenes, and then she took him to the scenes. He learned much more truth. He superseded their knowledge so fast because he stayed in contact with Father. The scenes weren't always perfect. I've studied them. I've got books about them. You know, some of them argued, some of them, even whatever. They still function carnally sometimes. But they had spiritual knowledge where the Pharisees and Sadducees did not. They had it, but they did not see spiritually. And so then Jesus, by the time he was 12 years old, again confounded the doctors. Why? Because he never left contact with Father, the divine mind. So, so this vision and this knowledge gives us superior understanding and wisdom. And the reason all of the creation groans for mankind to be who they are is our connection with all creation is very, very strong. Everything is Father. Now, it may have been turned into bad, but everything created is Father. The heavens are inscribed with the glory of Father, and the sky above proclaims Father's creative spiritual law-giving and really revealing activity in it. And that's Psalm 19:1. So everything reveals Father. And I know this is true because when I look out over creation, I feel, and even more today, I feel a very strong connection to it. I laughed with Carl and Larry the other day. We were flaying fish, and all of a sudden I thought, this thing is alive. It really got me, and they just laughed at me.
It has a mother and a father and babies.
I know. But I have this strong desire to look up. My daughter and I both do. We love to take pictures of clouds. We love the moon. How many times can you see the moon? Well, it's beautiful. It's like my wife is beautiful to me, and I look at her all the time, and I tell her she's beautiful. And so I look up at the sky. I look into the sea when I'm on a cruise ship. At Grand Canyon, I look into the canyon, and I just want to go see it all. I wish I could go down there. We drive by, Donna can tell you, we drive by forests, and I always say, I'd love to pull over and just walk through there. Larry, you've heard me say that too. I would love to just walk through those woods. I want to know what's there because there's a connection and it draws you through it. And I love to look up the sky, and I love to look at people. Do you guys, people watchers?
Yes.
I love to. Even as a young boy, I used to go to Shepherd Mall and sit there and just watch girls all the time. No, people. I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry, Donna. But if we would be who we be, as Brother Garner said, we would experience brotherly kindness towards all mankind and the rest of this creation. We would take care of this world. We would take care of everything that Father has given us. So what is the guiding of creation? Is it God sitting somewhere on a throne controlling everything and everyone? We thought it was, didn't we?
Yeah.
We prayed to God up there to do something for us all my life. I even asked one time to rapture us because I couldn't pay my bills. You know, I was under a house. It was in the winter. I'd lost a job at Ballinger's Furniture in the mud looking for bugs, and I cried my eyes out. And I just said, Lord, please come get us. And then I did it another time when I couldn't pay my bills because I was taught that was our hope, right? But why didn't we really realize that, well, if this is true, why is all this happening? Well, it's because I'm bad, so God's getting me. No, you're not bad, you're good. So what Father decided, declared, and decreed from eternity is the divine wisdom that's guiding the universe and man. And that's again why David told Solomon over and over and over, seek wisdom. He called it a her. I mean, one of these days we need to go through all those verses where always talk, seek wisdom, wisdom, wisdom. What do you mean? Well, wisdom is your guide. Divine wisdom. Where does it come from? The divine mind. And there's a lot of things we've done that's not real wise. Correct? Correct? So we all have a mandate in our lives, and all other creation has a purpose. And Father's creative, spiritual law-giving and revealing activity is ever at work in us, including the universe. You've got to realize you are the Logos. You are the book of life. I started this book out that I'm getting ready to publish on what we've been teaching for a while. And I started out talking about the book of life. And we literally are the Logos. We are the book of life. If this earth is ever going to experience life, it's got to be expressed through us. And we have to express that. So the only reason mankind and creation get out of order is mankind is not always walking in divine harmony with Father. They are not connected to divine mind. I never was taught that I have contact with a divine mind. I was always taught that Jesus Christ was in me. Because when they use the word Christ, and I know you talk about the Christ mind and all that, and we're trying to express that, but the truth is the majority of people, when you say Christ, what do they think of? They think of Jesus. And they think Jesus is inside of us. And so we thought that God was in control, Jesus could pray to God to get God to do something, or Jesus could answer our prayers himself. And so Father formed all mankind to reproduce after its kind, just like he did all the animals and everything else, right? And so he formed us perfect, and Father formed us in Father's image. We're the very perfect image of God. I've showed you over and over, we're the plural of God. Everything that God is, we are in our body. And so when we do this, when we reproduce after our kind, we replicate Father in our babies. So every time you people watching here, every time you reproduce a child, you're reproducing God. Scripture says ye are gods. So I say this often, when a baby is born, we see spirits slow down to visibility. Wouldn't that be true? Because where do they come from? The breath realm, the spirit realm, whatever you want to say, they come from Father. So if spiritually awakened parents raise the baby, then again, as I said earlier, it will fulfill its gifting in its early days and be an incredible blessing to the world. And you know, we're seeing children today that are incredible, but they need guidance of spiritually awakened people, right?
Yes.
We have a grandson. I mean, all my grandchildren are very smart, and I'm sure they got it from Donna, but but they got it from Father. But our grandson Ethan is so intelligent that he can't control it. And he doesn't know how to control his emotions, and he gets in trouble. But all of a sudden it's just over, and he's the sweetest, kindest young man you'll ever see in your life. And they want to brand him, they want to put labels in him, all kinds of stuff. But I believe he's functioning out of his divine mind. And Allison is learning and studying how to help him and how to teach him like we're teaching. And you heard her talking the other day. She's learned a lot. And I think she's going to help him. And I've told her about Mary doing that for Jesus. And so we need to protect him. Who from? These world systems. Lord of mercy, they need to be protected from what they're learning in school, in college, on their jobs, everything today. You know, there are all these games and stuff, but it's just what they're teaching them. All the businesses are becoming woke, if you would. And they're not protecting our young people. We can't blame them, our young people. They're not bad.
No,
they're just doing bad things. So Father's creation, again, is perfect. And as the realization of these truths dawns upon man and grows strong in our consciousness, they have lifted a mortal conscious awareness to reveal their godlikeness. And this mortal consciousness needs to be destroyed, because mortal means what? Liable to die mentality. So there's only one life and substance for the whole man or all creation. There is but one source of both manifest and unmanifest of all beings. So there are some people that are the manifestation of God, but they're not manifesting Father. There are people who have a gifting in their life to do things, but because they've been beat down, because they believe the lie or whatever, they're not doing those things, right? Like, I can't go to college and be a doctor. I can't do this or I can't do that. You know, I really had a desire to be a doctor when I was a young man. From, I would say, 10 to probably 17, I had this desire to be a doctor. My dad worked in a factory. They didn't make a lot of money. And he said, son, you just need to come out here and go to work with me at Tinkerfield. Then you'll have a good retirement someday. And so I tried factories, not that one, but I was miserable, because that, you know, but it never, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But I think I would have made a great doctor. I really would, because I love people.
Yes.
And I want to help people. But I am now. I'm a doctor, and my job is to fix people's brains.
Doctor of the mind.
To correct your brain, correct your awareness. That's what I mean, correct your awareness.
There you go.
So, Father's creation, I don't have too much longer to go here, but Father's creation, again, is perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect. It's perfect. Everything we see is perfect. We need to really change our speech. And if what we say is not based on perfect, we shouldn't say it. Even though they look really, really bad and they're acting really, really bad, we speak perfect over them and perfection over them. And man's physical body must be nourished by the Logos, right? Again, the creative spiritual law-giving and revealing activity, we need to be nourished by this. Jesus said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every creative spiritual law-giving and revelation activity that proceeds out of the mouth of God for eternity. Say that, Ann. I'm saying as fast as I could. But Jesus knew this to be true, because he was ministering to a woman at a well, and his disciples brought food to him, and he said, I have meat that you know not of. And that's where that one person said that we should get to where we don't need food. Well, you know, maybe I shouldn't depend on food for my life, but food does nourish me. But he was talking about, I have this revealing, this creative spiritual law-giving activity in me, and it strengthens me, and that's the meat that I really need. And see, me in that office, in my mindset, that's the meat that I need. I watch TV some. I watched a series that I really enjoyed. It was about the White House and somebody trying to kill the president. I like stuff like that, FBI and all that. I enjoyed it because sometimes I have to take a break. But the majority of my time is right there in that office, and it feeds me. And so I can literally say to some people, I have meat that you know not of. You know, so by listening to Father speak into our thoughts in the silence and listening attentively, man is led into the knowledge that they are truly spiritual, and that they are the origin of Father, and that we are the express of the divine. Hence, one, but a many-membered man. But we are one because there's only one body, but we're a many-membered man. So the creation needs mankind to function out of their rightful place as masters, dominion over the planet. And I like this. The Webster Dictionary gives a meaning to dominion. It says supreme authority, sovereignty. Wow. We have supreme authority over the planet and its atmosphere. That's pretty cool. Why don't we do it? Because we weren't taught that so much. We heard it, but sometimes we really don't think it's true. Well, I tried to stop that tornado once. Well, it's not trying, it's knowing. Jesus didn't try to calm the storm down. Jesus spoke to the storm and said, you're perfect, do what you were created to do. Bring nice, calm rain. Now, I'm paraphrasing what he really said, probably. But he didn't order it like he was angry or anything like that. And so how do we do it? We don't, this is just me thinking, but we don't go out and fight the tornadoes. We don't fight the hell. We don't fight the earthquakes or whatever. We bless the earth every day. We look at it and say, wow, you're beautiful, forest. We look at the sky and say, the sky is beautiful, and it functions properly, and when the rain comes, it's so beautiful. And we all, a collectiveness begins to do it, and it raises that energy, and it will affect the whole creation, because Jesus affected the creation, did he not? Everything he did. He didn't fight it. He saw it. He raised his energy level, if you would, the vibration or whatever. I don't know a better way to explain that. And that which had become bad began to function out of its goodness, including storms, including food. He's got how many people on a mountainside? 5,000? 5,000 people. And they only have so many fish and so many pieces of bread. And the disciples said, well, why did he bring him here? He's not even thinking about feeding them. Well, that was not a thought in his mind. He didn't worry about it. And what did he do? He saw massive amounts of food, and it came into being. And I've got books that I'm reading about that where Jesus supposedly showed up over in the Middle East to some ancient master comforter people, and they talk about it. And it's I don't think it's false. I think it's very much true. And he taught that, how they do that. And there would not be food, and they would bring people in, and Jesus would be talking, and he said it's time to eat, and they all prayed, and they opened their eyes, and there was food everywhere. I don't know. But I know Jesus did it, right?
Yes.
So dominion is a inner consciousness experience only through the divine mind being exercised. So lean to your divine mind. Like last week I said, when the sun comes up, the sunflowers are turning, waiting for it. They know it's coming, and they turn and they follow it all day long. To me, that's the greatest picture of leaning to the divine mind, is they follow it all day long. And if they don't, what happens? So y'all can see that. It just goes down. And it's weak. And what happens is the sun draws the energy out of the ground. Actually, the plant draws it. Remember, Jesus said, consider the lilies of the field. They don't toss, they don't twirl, they just draw out of where they're planted. So literally the sun puts that energy in that plant, and that plant then begins to draw nutrients out. That's what I'm hearing. I think that's what it is, but I think it sounds good to me. So this supreme authority comes as man realizes their oneness with the Father, and how much I need contact with Father, how much I need to be aware. You know, Carl, when you're going through anxiety sometimes, and now I understand that because I have it sometimes. We just have to, by faith, say, Father, this is not you. This is not peace. And I'm going to, by faith, be like a sunflower. And if I have to, I'm going to raise my head up to the sun, to Father, or the real sun, because the sun nurtures you, doesn't it? It feels good. And I'm going to let that take this away from me. We must let the same mind be in us, right? That was in Jesus. And so that's the ways of doing it. So we are the image and likeness man. We are a supernatural empowered by Father to do all we need to do. Then we can rule and reign over ourselves. And when we rule and reign over ourselves, then we rule and reign over creation. So there is this creative force in man constantly working, and all creations. It's always working, and it's always bringing life. And that's why I say this earth is never going to be destroyed. The global warming and all that stuff, it's just man who's breath in his nostrils. Yes, we don't need to be throwing plastic bottles in the water. We don't need to be dumping stuff in the ocean and all the horrible stuff that people are doing. But this earth is so big. But more than the size of the earth, God's power is unbelievably good. And if man ceased to exist, this earth would continue on and on and on, because Father said, it is to be. And when Father says that, nothing's going to stop it. There's going to be no end to creation whatsoever. So those who fail to recognize the divine mind shining within, they dwell in a continuous ignorance of the living word. And they just quote the Bible right and left. The King James Version, whatever version is, the written word, right? And we must go below that and see the spiritual word and the understanding. So the worship of God up there somewhere, who is too holy to be approached, is causing us problems. And yet Hebrews tells us, let us boldly enter into the awareness that we are the throne room or dwelling of Father. It says, let us boldly enter into the throne room of God, but it literally means enter into being the throne room of God. We may not understand it, Lily, but we need to boldly say so. Right. This is true of me. Mm-hmm. So in closing, we see Father's created spiritual law giving and revealing activity is forever upbuilding the universe. It's forever upbuilding the inhabitants. It's forever upbuilding the earth, and it's forever upbuilding me. It's in me to build me up, right? Yeah. And everything that Father created me with, a blood system, a digestive system, your whatever, all the systems in our body, it's been upheld by this right here. It's a law, a spiritual law, that this body should regenerate over and over and over. I should never get old, and what we call old. I'm not saying we don't age. Somewhat, and age really, we're in the ages one, so we shouldn't age. But if I knew who I was and I lived out of the activity of Father in me, everything would be fine. The heart would continue to be working properly, the liver would be, all this, and no weapon formed against me can prosper.
That's right. Amen.
Right? So my oldest daughter says it's all of the food we eat. Well, if I knew who I was, there's nothing I could take into my body that can hinder me whatsoever. Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to go drink poison, and I'm not definitely going to handle snakes and all the stupid stuff people's done, but I just know I can walk through this life, and there is a life inside of me that can sustain me if I let it happen. So that's what I'm looking for. So what must we do then? Again, let this divine mind be in you that was in Jesus, and the phrase "let this mind" and the proper word order is "let mine be." Did you hear that? Mm-hmm. Let mine be. Again, be who you be. But it's not, to me, that was powerful when I looked that up, because let it be. Let it be what it wants to be in you. Let it be powerful in you. It's one thing to know you have a divine mind, but what good is it if you just know it?
Right. Yeah.
You know, I know I have a computer in there, and I know I have one of the fastest hard drives and memories that you can, but if I don't turn it on, and so we need to say, Father, teach me to turn it on. How, and that's what we're doing here. How to turn it on. And so from the Greek it says to exercise the mind and to interest oneself in drawing from the divine mind. So my question is, not just to you, but to everybody, when you watch me teach, when you watch Kay teach, or other people who are teaching truth, do you leave that setting saying, man, that was really good, and never do anything about it, or never do anything with it? And that's what a lot of people do. And we go from video to video to video, from Facebook post to Facebook to like, and we like, and all those things. But are we really meditating on these truths? And that's why I like to send transcripts out to people where they can look at it and they can read it. And if you don't know it, all of our YouTube videos, Kay's YouTube videos now have transcripts. All you do is click the transcript and it all comes out. And you can read what was said, because sometimes we talk a little too fast for people. And so there's a good, but the question is are we willing? Mm-hmm. Are we willing? This has to get to where it becomes the most important thing in my life, is drawing from my divine mind. Just like our brain. What happens if we break our back and it severs our spine in places? You lose that part of your body, right? There's some places where people have a wreck and it's broken right here, and they can't move, and they can't feel, they can't move from this far down. Or up here, then you're a quadriplegic. Well, it's almost like something has severed. It's still there, the light, but it's severed our awareness that there's a divine mind in us that can take care of everything that we think we lack. And I'm preaching to me too. Amen?
Yes.
So I hope y'all enjoyed this. It blessed me studying it. It was so fun. It's getting lately where literally every subject that I could pick out of Romans, I could write a whole book on that. I mean, on creation, could be a whole book. And the things that Jesus did, John said the earth could not contain the volumes of the books, the things that Jesus did and said. We don't have all that he did in record. I would love to have his story from birth to before his ministry. I think it was awesome. Some people have him out there, book of this, book of that, but I don't believe most of them. One of them says that when he was a kid, he would kill birds and bring them back to life. Nah, that's not true, But it's not. We don't need to know that. We just need to know what he said. Do what he said. Amen. Love you guys. Bless you. Thank you for being here, Joan. It's always good to see you here with us. And we hope you have a great day. Don't forget to tune in to Kay's teaching today in the evening, around, I guess, usually around 4:45. So be good, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you.